Hi everybody, welcome back to Charming Data. We will learn all about analytic web apps in Python. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take a simple Excel sheet and build an interactive dashboard with this information. So we're going to take Pandas and Plotly, which are Python libraries, and we're going to build these pie charts where you can have slices and different what do you call these? Hover tooltips and legends that you can turn on and off. And we're going to build a bar graph, and we're also going to build a histogram with these libraries. In the part 2 of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to build an interactive dashboard using putting inside your dashboard a title, a drop-down, and that every time the user changes the drop-down option, this graph will change accordingly. So this is done with Dash, which is also all in Python. And I'm teaching you this because I've built some graphs before in Excel. It's not too complicated. You can go in here and build the graphs. But I find that once you know how to use Python, it becomes a lot simpler. And you have many more options of graphs and things that you can do data visualization wise. So if you go, for example, to the Plotly page, which is going to be under the video, you can see all the different fundamentals and artificial intelligence graphs and basic graphs, all these graphs and many more that you can do and you can have at your disposal once you know Plotly. So I'm going to teach you the basics of Pandas and Plotly right now, so you'll be able to expand on that and build more charts on your own. If you want to jump to certain parts of the video, under the video here, just go into this video layout section and just click on any part you want to see if you want to jump back to it or see it again. Okay, before we get started, this data is data on video game sales over the last 35 years from different parts of the world. And these represent millions. So this is 41 million, this is 29 million of all the different video games and the different types of video games that the world has come up with in the last 35 years. All right, let's get started. I'm going to go into here, erase this because I did this on my own to practice, but now we'll show you how to do this. So what you want to do is open your Python IDE, Sublime, Atom, Visual Code, Visual Studio Code, or PyCharm. I'm using PyCharm, and open your terminal, okay? Because you have to install two things to be able to do this. You have to install, you have to do pip install dash. Let me make this bigger for you. Pip install dash, and after you pip install dash, it'll take about 5 minutes. Then you pip install pandas, okay? These two libraries, dash and pandas. So you can close this once you have it installed in your IDE. And then we're going to start. All right. So the first thing we want to do is import dash. The second thing, we're going to import plotly .express as px, so we only can refer to it as px. And then we're going to import pandas as pd, so it's shorter. Okay. Now we're going to do some data exploration. So let's make this section data exploration with pandas. Let's call it that. And let us create our first pandas data frame. Our pandas data frame is going to be our Excel sheet. So it's the Excel sheet on steroids. It's pretty powerful. We're going to call it data frame. We're going to call it df equals pd, remember from the pd on top, dot read CSV. And it's going to be read CSV because this Excel sheet is saved in a CSV format and it's called VG sales. So read this CSV. And what is the VG sales? VG sales, okay, dot CSV. If it was Excel, then you would just do, instead of CSV, you would do Excel, okay? And then you would put here dot Excel. All right, so this is CSV. And now we have our pandas data frame. Now we can go ahead and print the first couple of rows. Let's print the first 5 rows like this. Save it, and then just hit run, and run the Excel with Python. Need this a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay, so now you can see the first 5 rows from 0 all the way to 4 and several columns. We see the rank column, the video game column, and the world sales column. Rank, video game, and then the world sales column. It's not going to show all of them. Instead of these, you'll see like the 3 dots because there's only limited amount of space. If you want to see certain columns, you can actually do that. So this is part of your data exploration phase. So go to print, df, do .iloc, and in here, open the parentheses, open the brackets, and we'll see the first 5 rows again, comma, and then open another bracket, and let's see column 2, column 3, column 5, and column 10. So if you print this, let me hashtag this out. To hashtag this out with PyCharm is control ? And we'll only have this to run. And now when we run this, you'll see the platform column, the year column, publisher and world sales. And these are respectively column number 2, 3, 5, and 10. Okay. Now, if you don't want to count the columns, if you want to just see what they're called, then you can do just copy world sales. And instead of numbers, put the string of world sales. But you have to change this from iloc, change this to loc. Okay. It can't be iloc is for numbers, loc is for strings. Now, if you play it, you'll see 5 rows of world sales. Perfect. The next thing we're going to see is genre. So let's do here. We see on the Excel sheet, on our Pandas data frame, that there is many different categories of video games. I don't know how many. There are 16,000 rows here, but I'm sure there's not 16,000 categories. So let's count the number of categories. We'll do print. We use the n-unique for that. Print df.genre, that's what it's called, .n unique, and then open the parentheses. So now if you save this and if you run it, it will tell you how many unique categories, 12 unique categories. So now if we want to see them, just copy this, go under here, paste, and instead of the n unique, just say unique. Take out the n. Now play it again, and it'll give you all the names of all the categories that the Pandas data frame has, right? These are all the categories. We can do the same thing with year. There are many years here, but we don't know how many. So let's do print genre. Instead of genre, we'll print year, right? And then n unique, we'll, instead of number, we'll just do, we want to see all of them. But we're going to sort them. So they'll go in order from lowest to highest. Sorted. Run it. And let's see how many years from 1980 all the way to 2016. Okay, so now that we've done a little bit of data exploration, let's do a little bit of data visualization, and that we're going to do with Plotly. So let's go in here, let's copy this, and let's do a new section, and we'll call it data visualization with Plotly. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is, let's do a pie chart of the types of video games and the sales in Japan. So we'll do these 2 columns, E and I. To do that, all you have to do is use, right here, we're going to call our pie chart, let's call it fig pie, equal, and then we'll just call the pie, px.pie, open parentheses. Px comes from Plotly Express, and pi is what you need to create a pie chart. How do you know this? You know this because I told you, but also because there are many graphs that I don't know that you can see by going into this link below the video. You'll see high-level interface, and you can see all the different graphs that you can create with Plotly Express. Okay, so if you want to create a violin, you'll do violin. We are creating the pie chart. Click in here in the pie chart, and here you'll see all the different parameters that you need to use, some of which in order to create the pie chart. Usually you only need 3 parameters, the data frame and the second one and the third one. So here we have names and values in the data frame. So let's use them and create this pie chart. So the data frame is going to be our df, because this is our Pandas data frame. Okay, this is in Pandas. And then comma, and then the names is another parameter, and the names is the name of this column, the genre column, right? Because it's the category, so you can just copy it and put it as a string. Don't forget to put it as a string. And then the values is going to be the values is usually the numbers, right? So the numbers is going to be Japan sales. values, not value, values. Okay, and now that we have our pie, the pie was created, all we want to do is to show it. So let's show our pie, and you just do show. Figpie.show, save it, run it, and now it's to generate a pie chart with all the different, the legend has all the 12 different types of video games and their sales over all the years. This is taking all the years combined. So you can see that 27%, or role-playing video games, were 27% of all Japanese sales, which was equal to 350 million sales. 12% was action, and then sports was 10% with 134 million sales. Let's say we want to see in a different country. Let's see in North America. So we'll copy this, paste. Let's hashtag this out so we don't have it twice. And instead of Japan, we'll put North American. Copy, paste, save this, and then run it again. And let's see what we get with North American. With North American, we get 19%. The first category is action, and then sports, and then shooter. Shooter is 13% in third place of all sales, of video game sales over the last 35 years. Just for reference, shooter in Japan is last. So in America, we really like games with guns. Okay. Let's move on to a different graph. We just did the pie chart. Let's do a graph that is a histogram. Or maybe let's do a graph that's a bar. Before that, let's do a bar graph. A bar graph is, let's see how we create a bar graph. You can go to the same high level link below the video and look for the bar graph. It's right here, and look for all the parameters, right? So it's px.bar, and then all these parameters. Again, we're only going to use the first three parameters: data frame, x, and y. And let's do that of the genre as well. So we'll do fig underscore, we'll call it bar, call this fig bar. You can call it whatever you want, px.bar, and then we'll use exactly the same, not exactly, but we'll make this faster. Categories. So instead of names, we'll use x. X is going to be the x-axis is going to be the genre, and instead of values, we'll put y. Y-axis is going to be North American sales. So that's it. One line of code, three parameters, and we have our bar chart. And now we want to show it on the page. So we'll do figbar.show, run it. And now we'll see that we'll have all the different sales. This is different colors because it breaks down over the years, all the different sales. And you see that action and shooter and sports have the highest bars in North American sales over the last 35 years. Let's say instead of genre, instead of video game types, let's see x-axis will be the years. So we'll see the distribution over the years. And when you want to see a distribution of a continuous value, years, you usually want to use a histogram. So let's do exactly that. Let's hashtag this, copy this, hashtag it out. And now let's see histogram. We'll call this fig hist. We'll call this fig hist to show later. And in the histogram, I think it's called, that's why I like PyCharm. It auto completes everything for you, or many things. And histogram also has an x-axis and a y-axis. So this we can leave exactly the same, and we can run it. And now we see that we have a histogram. Oops, 1 second. We don't want genre. We said that we wanted year. So let's do year in North America. And now we see over the years how in North America it really started, the video games really started selling very well until 2010, and then it started dropping to until 2015. So great, we built a pie chart, we built bar graphs, and then we built a histogram. Now, in part 2 of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this interactive. So remember when I first showed you how we had the bar graph and the title? We're going to build this, and we're going to build together with the dropdown. This is done with Dash. Okay, to make an interactive dashboard in Python, you got to use Dash, which we imported here above. This is going to be our last section. data visualization was Plotly, and now we're going to do data, not data, we'll put interactive graphing with dash. Interactive graphing with dash. Okay. So to do interactive graphing, the first thing you have to do is you have to import a few things, and I'll explain these later, but you have to import dash HTML components, as HTML will be faster to write. Import dash core components as DCC, and then from dash dependencies, we're just going to import output and input, because we don't need all the dependencies. We'll just need a few things. So we're just going to import output and input. I'll explain this later. And usually you want to put this on top, okay? I'm going to leave this for now here, but usually, let's just move it. You want to put it on top. The libraries you want to import at the top. Let's erase this. Okay. So now to start our page layout, or to start our app, we have to do app equals dash dot dash to call our dash, and because we're using Flask under the hood, you just have to put underscore underscore name underscore underscore. Doesn't really matter why. You don't really have to remember this. You always use the same thing. You're always going to write this. So just copy paste from this code. And then we're going to create the layout. Okay, so the layout is going to be the app layout equals HTML.div. Open the parentheses, open a bracket, enter, and now anything that's going to go in here is going to be the layout. So remember, in the layout, we need a few things. We need the HTML, the title, we need a drop-down component with several options, and we need a place to put our graph. So we need 3 different components. So let's start with the first one. The first component, to build a title, there's different ways to do it, but I'm going to use HTML.h1. And if you're like, what? Where is he getting this h1 from? What is h1? I am taking this from this dash main page. They have great documentation. So going under the video and click on this main page, the what's dash, and then go into dash core components and HTML components. You see this right here? The HTML components will give you all the HTML components in Python. So you can write that in Python. I'm using the h1. And we're going to use, in the core components, we're going to use a DCC graph, and we're going to use a DCC dropdown to create the dropdown and the graph components. Okay, so you can read more about this here. So HTML1, and here we don't really need any parameters. We're just going to put the direct title. What is our title going to be? Our title is going to be graph analysis with charming data. So let's do that right here. So now we have our title. Before we create the dropdown in the graph, let's just start this app and see what it gives us. So we'll put if, and this you don't have to remember either. This is going to be the same for every single app that you create. If underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals main underscore underscore main underscore underscore, a lot of underscores, run app run server. App run server. So this, again, this and this part you only have to copy paste to every single app that you create. So this inside is the only thing that changes. So now you save this. Let's stop our other graph and let's start this one. If you save it, it's going to give you a link. You click on this link, and this is your HTML. This is your web page. This is your link, and this is your web page. It's not on the World Wide Web yet. It's just your web page. And so far, we have the title. So what are we missing? We're missing the dropdown and we're missing the graph. So let's put that in there right now. The next thing you need comma. Don't forget this comma, this devilish comma. I always forget about it and it always screws up my app. I'm sorry a little bit about the noise. I think it's my heating system working, but I'm sure you can hear me very well. So the next thing we want to create is the graph. So let's create our DCC graph. Open parentheses, and we're going to give it an ID because most of our things that we need to interact with are going to need an ID. So let's give it an ID and we'll call it my graph. And to create the graph, you just have to put figure. The figure parameter equals, and this will take Plotly Express graphs. So we're just going to put the Plotly Express graph that we want inside of here. And the one that we want, let's take the histogram. So we'll take just this and we'll just copy paste this into here. There we go. If you can't see this, let's do it easier so you can see it. And now we have our histogram inside of here and the graph that ends here. All right, let's save this. Let's run it again, refresh it. And now we should be able to see, when we refresh the page, a title and a histogram. All right. Now we need to add the dropdown, a dropdown component with all the different options. So to add the dropdown, we're going to add it here in between. We'll do DCC, dropdown, open parentheses. Don't forget the comma here at the very end. Let's give it an ID. They always need an ID. We'll call it, we'll do a dropdown of genre choices. So we'll do genre choice, okay? And then the next parameter, we're going to use the options. The options parameter is all the options that we're going to see inside the dropdown. The options is always a list of dictionaries. So a list of dictionaries. We're just going to do this with the for loop. So we're going to say for every genre type, every video game type, create an option inside the dropdown. So really what you could do is just copy paste from here for every DF genre unique, because you got to make sure that it's unique. So because there's multiple, you don't want to have 16,000 options. You just want to have several. For every, for X in all of these unique genres, let's sort them so they're alphabetized. Sorted. Okay. For X in sorted, the genre unique, we're going to put, you're always inside the options in the dictionary, you're always going to have a label. We'll call it X because it's going to be that genre. And then you're going to have a value. Every single one of them is the same thing, label and a value. Okay. So we have our options, and now we need our comma. Now we need our value, the value that is going to be chosen by default when the page reloads. We'll call that, let's do action is going to be, action I'm taking from here is the first value that's going to be chosen. Well, let's do sports. We can do sports. Doesn't matter which one is the first one. We'll just do sports as the first one that's chosen when the page reloads. And that's it. You can save this and you can refresh it. And now that page should have also a drop down. Perfect. And the sports is the first one that reloads because our value was sports. And we have the for loop right here of all the different options of the unique category. So we only have 12 options in here, from action all the way to sports. Now this is not interactive yet. This, if you change the drop down, it's not doing anything. It's not changing the graph. This is just the layout. Title, drop down, and graph just goes inside the whole layout. To make this interactive, you need to use the callback. So let me show you how to do that right now. Enter, enter. Let us use the callback. The callback has a callback decorator and a callback function. The callback decorator is always going to look like this. App.callback. Don't forget to use this @ sign. App.callback. Open the parentheses, and we're going to have an output. Output, and we're going to have, parentheses, and we're going to have an input. What's wrong with my spelling? An input. Okay, this output and input comes from here that we imported, right? Output and input. And under the output and input, we're going to fill this in a sec. Under the output and input, we're going to have the callback function. So this is the callback decorator, and this is the callback function. Define interactive graphing. You can call it whatever you want. I'll call it interactive graphing, parentheses, and then we're going to return something. Okay? This is the basic structure of a callback that allows you to make an interactive dashboard. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take the drop down, we want to put inside the input, because it's the input that is going to change what the graph is going. We're going to take the input of the drop down and change the graph, which is the output. Okay, so to do that, all you have to do is say, you don't need to use this, but I'm going to show you for tutorial purposes. Component ID. The ID of the dropdown is genre choice. Okay, so we know what we're talking about. Genre choice. And the property is going to be, the component property is going to be the value, because we're going to take the value of that drop down, whatever that value is. We're going to take that. And since we have one value in here, one input, we have to put this inside here as an argument. So let's call this value choice, value of genre. Let's call it value of genre, right? So now what we have to do is we're going to say, let's just print. Let's print the value that we see. Value, let's print and see what we get, okay? Whatever we see, that's all we're going to see. And then we're going to return, right now we're going to return an empty dictionary inside the output, okay? So output also has component ID. So we're going to return an empty dictionary inside the component ID, which is going to be the graph. So it's going to be my graph, is going to be the ID. And then the component property is going to be the figure, because we're going to return something inside that figure, okay? So whatever we return here, this empty dictionary is going to return here, which is going to return here, okay? Right now, empty dictionary doesn't mean anything, but I printed this out. So every time I choose a dropdown, I'm going to see something inside my terminal here. Let's refresh. And now if I click on racing, I'm going to see racing right here. See, if I click on fighting, I'm going to see fighting down here. Perfect. So this works. What I want to do now is, instead of returning an empty dictionary, I actually want to return a figure, okay? So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want to return the figure. First of all, what I want to do is I want to filter the data frame, so only the data frame with this genre that was chosen, fighting or racing or sports, is what appears. Only those rows appear and not the whole data frame. So to do that, I just have to make a copy. Always make a copy. DFF equals df where df genre equals the value that was chosen in the dropdown, right? So we just did our filtering of the data frame, and now we only have these rows that pertain to the dropdown. And now that we have our data frame, our new data frame df, now we can actually create our figure. So let's create a figure here, equals, and let's create a bar figure, px bar, open parentheses, and the same thing. We need a data frame. Let's just copy paste from above. A data frame, and let's do it over years, over the years. The data frame is not going to be df, it's going to be dff because it's the copy here. And it's not going to be genre, we're going to do year as the x-axis, and we'll do North American. Let's do world sales instead of North America. World sales, which is one of the columns right here. And now that I have a figure that was generated, instead of an empty dictionary, I can put a figure in here. And remember, this figure is going to go inside this output, which is going to go inside of this figure right here. So I don't need, I have to take this out. You have to take this figure out of here. You can put here an empty dictionary if you want, because something has to go inside of here. If you put a figure in there, it's static. You want that to change, so just take this out. You can do this, or you can just take the whole thing out, whatever you prefer. So you save it, and you run it again. And now you'll see that when we refresh this, we have sports. And if it changes, and all this is in world sales over the years, if we want to see action, we'll see the action generated up to 100 million sales at a certain point. Adventure 25 million. Racing generated up to like 70 million. This is probably Mario Karts or whatever. So there you go. I just taught you how to create an interactive dashboard using Pandas and Plotly and Dash. If you want to learn more about how to create more complex dashboards, I really recommend watching the video above my head, which is an introduction to Dash that will teach you all about how I'm doing this and much more, especially the layout and the callbacks to get a better understanding of how to work with them. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, share it with others, and subscribe below and turn on your notifications so every week you'll get notified of a new video that comes out on analytic web apps with Python. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.